Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. All right, welcome in. It's the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Patrick Allen here with you. It is a victory party. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Las Vegas Raiders 19-17 in an infuriating, disgusting, ugly abomination of a performance by the Kansas City Chiefs. But because they're the Kansas City Chiefs, they just somehow they're like, and I hate to compare our favorite football team like to this, but they're basically like cockroaches. You can't kill them. Drop a nuke on them, and they find a way to worm their way out of it. The rest of the NFL world is collectively losing their minds. I'm here with my good friend Bransen, Arrowhead Addict contributor from all the way over in Australia, who was so kind to offer to help us out here around the holidays. Bransen, mother of God, like what were you thinking there as that game was appeared to be out of reach, and then they just managed to win it anyway?
I thought the Chiefs were cooked. I thought that was it. I thought it was game over. I thought they'd blown it, to be absolutely honest. And then the way that game ended, I'm going to say the Chiefs got lucky. All year I've sort of said, it's not luck. It's just being able to perform in clutch moments. They've had things go their way, yes, but they've been able to make plays when other teams haven't. With that one, I reckon that was all luck. Just mismanagement from a play calling point of view, an execution point of view. The defense couldn't stop anything, it felt like, in the second half. And then for a play like that, and then the penalty to be, what was it, illegal formation instead of a false start? Yeah, whatever it was. So it wasn't a false start that meant it was a turnover. Just insane. They got lucky. That's all that one was. I can't believe it.
I was furious at them the whole game, and I'm still mad at them, but I'm actually madder at them because, like, when we beat the Broncos with the blocked kick, I laughed my ass off. I was gleeful, joyful, because I hate these guys, and I thought they were going to beat us, but we made a play to win the game. And there's nothing I love more in this world than beating the Raiders and watching the Raiders fail spectacularly. So I'm even madder at the Chiefs because I feel like they took a little bit of joy from me. Like, I didn't even I still laughed, and I think it's funny that the Raiders lost that game, but they just made me so mad with everything they did in this game. And we're going to get into all of it. Just furious. This is a victory party. It's going to be all negative. There's almost no positives to take from this game from the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're going to let them have it, and they deserve it. I'm going to get a couple super chats here. Shout out to Daniel for the super chat. Says, hoping Humphreys is a legit upgrade. I saw they moved Tooney to offensive tackle, which helped. Not sure if they who they had at guard. It was Caliendo. Also, tell me what was that 3rd and 2 call? I suggested, Bransen, a couple of weeks ago, maybe more than that now, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. I said, I didn't even say they should make the move. I said, is Joe Tooney the best left tackle on the Chiefs right now? And people got furious with me for even bringing that up. No, you don't move an all-pro guard to another position. And I was like, yeah, but like Mahomes is going to get killed. Like, maybe, like, I would rather have him playing his best position, of course. But I mean, this was clearly becoming a problem. I'll get to Slothy as well. I know Sloth, just predictable. 1917, thank you for the super chat. Says, never a doubt. If you thought there was even a chance we'd lose today, you could go pound sand. I've been saying it Ever since Vegas put us as a 12-point favorite, we'd win by 2 and like it. We did. I love Slothy, man. We need guys like Slothy in the kingdom, especially when the Chiefs are playing like this, because he is the homer of all homers. He never gives up. I'm in the private Discord with him during the games. It doesn't matter. Slothy's always on board. He always thinks the Chiefs are going to win. He wags his finger at anybody that dares criticize the team or say that they're gonna lose. One more super chat from Taryn Young. Today's issues: left tackle plus right tackle went away from the run, reading Cook's play calling, and tight end coverage. Yeah, that's a lot nicer and a lot more succinct than I'm going to put it in this podcast. Let's hover on the positives for just a minute here, because this is a victory party. Hilarious, the Raiders. Hilarious. I tweeted this out and I want to read it, Bransen. This is a long time. So let me just pull up Twitter really quick. The late great, and he was great, Marty Schottenheimer. He hated the Raiders. He was really big and instrumental about, really making Raider Week a thing and this rivalry. This is what Marty said about the Raiders once, and it is as true today as it ever was. As a football team, there was a philosophy relative to how you beat the Raiders. That was that you went into a game with the understanding that the first half would come and go, and you would want to stay in the contest. But if you stayed the course into the fourth quarter, you would find a way to win somehow. You would find a way to somehow beat them, or they'd beat themselves, and you'd wind up the winner anyway. That was Marty Schottenheimer, and my God, that was it. If there was any, if people think there's like voodoo, like what are the Chiefs? How do they keep doing this? If there was any like spiritual force that had a hand in this win today, by God, it was Marty Schottenheimer, just reaching down with his finger and knocking that ball out from the center's hands. What do you think about that quote from Marty? It's one of my all-time favorites.
I like it. It's good, and it rang true today. That's got to be, if you're a Raiders fan, we've seen some pretty frustrating ways for NFL teams to lose games recently. The goal, the Bears, there was the Hail Mary, and then whatever that was on Thanksgiving without calling a timeout. I reckon that would almost be what we just saw, more frustrating than any of them, because they had the Chiefs on a plate. They were ready. They were in field goal range. It seemed inevitable. They could just move the ball down the field at will. It was there for the taking. And then for a fumble on a premature snap when the quarterback's not looking, and then it could have been a false start, but it wasn't. And just to watch that one slip through your fingers in that way for a Raiders fan, that'd suck. But hey, we're Chiefs fans, so we don't care. You beauty.
Yeah, and I honestly, if Marty is right, then even if they didn't fumble there, the kicker was going to miss that field goal. Yeah. He was terrible all day. Like, they were going to find a way to Raider it up. But look, everybody's mad. Raymond, and thank you for the super chat, says you can't play at a poor level all season and then expect to suddenly turn it on when you need it. But glad to see Mahomes get his confidence back on longer passes. I would argue, Raymond, that is false. The Chiefs literally did that last season. They were horrible all year. They could not move the defense wasn't. The defense was good. The defense struggling here these last few weeks is a bit of a new development. But the Chiefs' offense was absolutely putrid last year. Nobody could catch the ball. They had nobody to throw to. They were awful. But then what happened? They ended up winning the Super Bowl. They went on a run. They figured out how to do it anyway. And I was defending them earlier today, and that's another reason I'm mad at them. So I'm going to make you sit and listen to me read this, because I tweeted this earlier, and I still believe it, even after today. And then that's going to be the last of the positive talk about the Chiefs for today. I said, last year from November 16th to December 31st, the Ravens outscored their opponents 203-106. They won 6 straight, moved to 13-3, and secured the number 1 seed. Over that same span, the Chiefs outscored their opponent 150-39. That's a plus 11 margin. They went 3-4. Blowing teams out in the regular season means nothing. Just ask the Ravens. The narrative that the Chiefs aren't really good because they win a bunch of games by 1 score is BS, and it's lazy. It's also a safe narrative. Think about it. No team can win it every year. They can't win it all every year. If you were choosing between the Chiefs and the field, it's the field. So if a team knocks off Kansas City, which is likely because history tells us so, the experts will say, I told you so, the Chiefs were frauds. If the Chiefs pull it off, then they get the shrug and talk about how great Casey was for a few months before doing this dance all over again in 2025. What people should be talking about is how remarkable it is that the Chiefs went 10-1 despite an insane amount of injuries to key starters and depth positions. They should be talking about the grit and greatness of Mahomes and the brilliance of the coaching staff. If the Chiefs were any other team, Andy Reid would be getting Coach of the Year buzz. But since the Chiefs are supposed to be good, no amount of adversity or injuries is enough for these coaches and players to get credit for what they're doing. Instead, they get put on fraud watch. So if the Ravens or Bills or some other team take out the Chiefs before the Super Bowl, when all the pundits are taking their victory lap, remember that they're no more right about the 2024 Chiefs being frauds than they were in 2023. And that if you bet on an NFL team to lose for long enough, you'll eventually be right. There are issues, and I'm mad at the coaching staff today, but I still believe what I tweeted this morning when I defended this team. They're not winning by luck. They did today, but they're not winning these games by luck. They're winning these games because they're good. And because they usually, not today, have the best coaching staff in the NFL, they're in a one-game matchup with Mahomes, deadly. And that's why they keep winning Super Bowls. And all this talk about the Lions and the Bills, oh, look at all these pretty wins they had. Well, last year during that stretch, the Kansas City Chiefs were awful. They were 3-4. That stretch that I mentioned, there was only one more game after that for both the Ravens and the Chiefs. Both of them played their backups in the game because the Ravens has clinched the 1 seed and the Chiefs couldn't move up or down, which is why I didn't include that game in the sample size. What good did it do the Ravens that they beat the shit out of everybody? That when the game that they clinched the number 1 seed on, they scored like 56 points. It did them no good. It didn't matter. It didn't matter in the end. The Chiefs, we're all mad right now, right? And I see people in the chat saying, hey, damn it, we're cooked. There's no way we're going to win the Super Bowl. There's no way. We stink. We're bad. Look at this game we just played against the Raiders. This game against the Raiders was infinitely better than the game against the Raiders last year that the Chiefs lost at Arrowhead on Christmas Day. Like, they only played 2 more games after that, and one of them they started their backup, and then they won the Super Bowl. So if you think that they're cooked now, can you just step into your time machine and go back to last Christmas and one of the most atrocious performances I've seen from this team ever? And then they played 1 more game with their starters and figured it out and won the Super Bowl. So, like, if I know you're mad and we're all down bad right now, if you see anybody this week being like, yeah, Chiefs are cooked, man, you literally have history. Last year, it was way worse, and they still won the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean they're going to win the Super Bowl, but it means they are most definitely not cooked. All right. That's my rant. And that's the positive, and that's the silver lining. I wanted to have all of that for you guys because I saw the way this game was going. And shout out to Raymond who I threw in another super chat just to say, Patrick Allen, don't ruin my righteous indignation. LOL. Yeah, I believe it. Yes, yeah, I didn't miss it. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, Justin says, are Reed and Nagy incapable of calling basic passes? That basic pass plays that would give a quick slant or an out route. Yeah. So Bransen, let's talk as we get into the negatives. Bransen, what did you think about that last? All good. The last play call. What did you think of that last play call that where the Chiefs needed 2 yards, 3rd and 2, and they take a shot to Worthy, like a home run ball?
So incredibly frustrating, obviously, because it didn't work. You've got 2 yards there. Pacheco's back. You've got Kareem Hunt, and you're like, look, we got 2 chances to win a ball game here. Hand it off, run 2 yards. So incredibly frustrating that they didn't opt for that option, really. Yeah. But what it actually reminded me of was the play in the AFC Championship game last year against Baltimore. Similar situation. Game on the line, late in the 4th quarter, they faked a handoff and then lobbed it over the top to MVS. In that instance, MVS came down with the ball and the Chiefs looked like heroes. Fantastic play call, gutsy, it worked. This time, it It just didn't. And that's always the risk that you run when you go for a play like that, because, it was open. Like, the play was on. The play worked. Worthy had space. But again, for whatever reason, Mahomes and Xavier Worthy just can't seem to connect. And that's the risk that you run. That ball might fall incomplete. It might hit Worthy in the hands. He might drop it. If it doesn't pay off, you end up in that situation where you look a fool. You've got egg on your face and going, why didn't we hand it off to two capable running backs who, the running game wasn't fantastic today. We had that one explosive 30-yard run from Pacheco. But other than that, it wasn't as effective as we've seen. But it reminded me of the AFC Championship game. But, those are the risks you take. And if it doesn't pay off, you look silly. And it probably should have cost the Chiefs the game, to be honest.
And they threw that ball in the AFC Championship game to MVS, which was basically suicidal. It was a suicidal move. So you have to admire the Stones. I just felt like in this game, at 3rd and 2, with the kind of the way things were going, I'm looking at that and I'm like, hey, I'm always a big believer in this. Don't give the ball back to the other team for a chance to win the game. That's what they want. Don't do what the other team wants. Now, look, if it was 3rd and 15 or something and you don't convert, like, I get it. The likelihood of you, but it's 3rd and 2. So you have 2 plays if you want to. Run the ball. Just run it. See if you get a yard and a half. And then you're like, can we just punch this through? And like, it's over. You have to stop them anyway. And I know they would have been closer to field goal range, but look what ended up happening. I know I'm dabbling in hindsight here. Just go, like, just win the damn game. Just win it right there. Don't give them a chance.
And on that as well, it's like, if you go backwards, if you hand the ball off on 3rd and 2 and it's a negative play, you still ended up punting anyway. So you don't lose anything. But I think for me, what was more frustrating than the 3rd and 2 play call is that seems like the kind of play that you call if you know you're going for it on 4th down. You're like, okay, we'll take a shot. We'll see if we can get it. But then on 4th down, we're going to hand it off, and then we're going to take our chances and hope that our interior offensive line, although Tooney wasn't interior at that point, but hope that someone can get a block and you'd back your team to pick up 2 yards. So I think the decision not to go for it on 4th down, I think that was worse than the 3rd down play call, in my point of view, in particular, especially because they called a timeout. Mahomes went, got his helmet back on, was over there talking to Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. It seemed like they had something, and they went, nah, we're happy that punting is the right option. And we saw from the way the Raiders moved the ball down the field that punting was not the right option. It just worked out.
And something I think these coaches forget about sometimes is, like, yes, you should. I mean, that was a good punt by Ariza. They were pinned back. You should be able, they have no timeouts. You should be able to stop them. But it's harder to play defense in this situation for a couple of reasons. One, the team you're playing has nothing to lose. So they're going to make decisions that they wouldn't normally make. So you have no margin of error. And the other thing is they have 4 downs. Like, it's really difficult to, and you have to play. You can't play aggressive because you got to play soft a little bit because you want them to throw it underneath. You want the clock to run out. So you let them get momentum, and you don't want to give up the big play over top. So you play it a little bit safe till they start to get towards the middle of the field. And it just seems like no matter what's happened during the game, teams always are able to move into scoring position. It doesn't work. And again, they've got 4 downs to get 10 yards and keep it going and keep it going. And so you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Just win the damn game. You need 2 yards. You're playing the Raiders. Like, yes, you should have been able to stop them in that situation. But, like, you got to kind of, like, read how things are going. You haven't scored in the red zone today. Things just haven't been going well. Your defense has been not good for about 4 weeks now, particularly your secondary. Your safeties are struggling. They have Brock Bowers, who's an absolute monster. Just get the damn first down. Just run the fucking ball. I don't understand. Like, and then this is a team that has 8 billion plays in their playbook. Okay. You're telling me that the best play in that situation, if you are going to pass it, is a deep bomb to Xavier Worthy, who you've hit on exactly one deep bomb this year, who is a rookie, who is not in sync with Mahomes. They've got 8 billion plays where like Noah Gray runs 1 yard and gets a first down, and you run you know what I mean? Like they've got all these sprint outs, and Mahomes, the play that they ran, and when Mahomes has like the triple option, he can run it, he can throw it. Like they have all this shit. Like, why are you calling that play? The coaching, it starts with the coaching today. And all season long, I've been like, the Chiefs coaches they're gods. They're unbelievable. They're the reason. They were terrible today. This team, and you pointed it out earlier, Bransen, the run wasn't working great for them, but they didn't try. Like this is a game you get Isaiah Pacheco back. He's gassed up. I'm sure Kareem Hunt was gassed up because one, he knows he's not going to take an absolute pounding every week now. And two, the other guy comes back. You want to say, hey, I need to stay involved, so he was ready to go. Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, 7 carries each in this game. The Chiefs only ran the ball 16 times. Deep in the fourth quarter, they had run the ball 11 times. Now, I understand you've got Patrick Mahomes and it's fun to throw the football, but this is a game where your tackles, one of them is a revolving door over on the left, and the guy on the right is a walking penalty. A walking penalty. They were terrible. Help them out and run the ball a little bit. Help Mahomes out. If you're the Raiders, what do you want the Chiefs to do in this game if you're on defense? Do you want them to run or do you want them to throw? You want them to throw. You have Max Crosby. He's an absolute monster. He's the best player on your team. The best player on your team is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, and the guys that you're playing can't block on either side. They're horrible. And you're the Chiefs coaching staff, and you're like, you know what? Let's throw the ball 46 fucking times. 46 times. And run the ball 16 times. 2 of those were Mahomes. So they called 14 rushing plays. And one of those they called at the end of the game when they were trying to run out the clock. And then, of course, they tried to fucking pass on second down. And it was an incompletion and they stopped the clock. I mean, it was just it was literally like Matt Eberflus got fired in Chicago and flew straight to Kansas City, put on an Andy Reid costume, and was like, I've got my new opportunity here. They were awful today. And then the other thing was they wouldn't. I'm sorry, I know I'm ranting here, but that's a staple of this postgame show. Why aren't you doubling Brock Bowers? What are you doing? He's the only person on this. Look, I know other guys made plays today, right? Trey Tucker got a 58-yard pass because Justin Reed can't cover and fell flat on his face and then was fucking laughing about it after the play, by the way. Jacoby Myers is a good receiver, but you can deal with those guys one-on-one. There's one guy on the Raiders. One, they can't run it. All the running backs suck. There's one guy on the Raiders that you have to worry about. It's Brock Bowers. And they're in the red zone, and they're like, let's put him on one-on-one with Chamari Connor. What are you doing? What are you doing? Even Romeo Crennel, when he was a defensive coordinator and they were taking it, Antonio Gates had 4 guys surrounding him. They'd ring around the rosy on the guy. So for me, the story of the game, and there's a lot of them, it starts with the coaching staff. They could have made things so much easier on themselves, and they refused to. All right, I'm done. Bransen, go ahead. You had something you wanted to say.
Well, I just wanted to touch on the way, how you're talking about the Chiefs decided not to run the ball. We were talking about how the run game wasn't that effective. Pacheco had that one explosive run for 34 yards and then got 3 runs for the rest of the game after that. That was sort of the thing we wanted to see with him coming back. Kareem Hunt, it just isn't explosive. We wanted someone who could hit the hole and bust a big one. And that's exactly what Pacheco did. And the Chiefs saw that and promptly gave him 3 more carries for the rest of the game. And so to move away from it, especially when there was such problems at left tackle and right tackle along the offensive line, there were plays where Mahomes was getting sacked within a second and a half, where Wanya Morris was a turnstile, barely got a hand to anyone. Run the ball. You would surely, Pacheco's looked like he can bust one off, which he already did. And for him to get 3 more carries, I don't think they helped themselves out in terms of slowing that pass rush or trying to give different looks. They didn't help the offensive line out a whole lot with some of their play calling, it felt.
No, and Branson, the Raiders give up 119 yards rushing per game on average. The Chiefs had 63 yards rushing in this game. You're right. Like, I saw people saying, like, well, they were getting stuffed early. Well, like, yeah, man. If you're the Raiders, what do you want? You want the Chiefs to pass the ball. That's playing into the Raiders' hand. So what do you think the Raiders were doing early in the game? They were probably stacking the box a lot. The Chiefs have dealt with that this year. Teams have known with all the injuries that the Chiefs want to run the ball. And there have been times when the Chiefs said, fuck it, we don't care. We're running it down your throat. And when it didn't work, they just kept going back to it. And for whatever reason today, the Chiefs coaches played right into Antonio Pierce's hands, right into his hands. They're like, oh, gee, you stopped our run a couple times. I guess we better just throw the ball 50 times when we can't block pass rushers and your best guy's a pass rusher. I mean, it was insane. It was completely insane. And you were right. Pacheco ripped off that run. Well, what happens if they should have run the ball 30 times in this game? 30 times. I don't care if it's not working. Like, you're going back, like you're going backwards.
That run came in the second half too. So, like, if you're saying that the Raiders were able to stop the run early, and they were, that run came after that sort of happened, where you're sort of like, okay, well, maybe, halftime adjustments or whatever, or a couple of things that clicked, or things are just firing on all cylinders now. So I think, to not go back to that more often, it reminded me of, Chiefs teams of a few years ago.
It was insane. It was, and Justin Hayes in the chat said it. The run game didn't have the opportunity to get going. Like, you have to pound. You have 3 all-pro level players in the middle of this offensive line, in Tooney, Humphrey, and Trey Smith. Just bully these guys. Let Max Crosby tire himself out trying to play run defensive, run down the line, and then those opportunities. I know it's tasty to see like one-on-one coverage, and nobody ever plays that against the Chiefs, but like, Andy's got to realize that you've got old DeAndre Hopkins, old Travis Kelce, and a rookie out there. Those are your receivers right now. When you get Hollywood Brown back, if you had Rashee Rice out there, oh yeah, by all means, this is a game that Chiefs probably put up 45 points against the Raiders, because those guys are young, they're fast, they've got a rapport with Mahomes. But you don't have those guys. You've got to understand where you're at. And it was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's the arrival of Hopkins or what. But when they went into turtle mode, when they went into their shell, when everybody got hurt earlier in the season, they were like, we're going to run Kareem Hunt 27 times. They were super efficient. Mahomes is converting on third down. And the main thing was that they were not losing yards. It was masking the issues at tackle. They were Kareem Hunt always falls forward. Even if they got stuffed, they get 1 or 2 yards. You're not in a bad situation. Now teams know. And I know everyone's they're hating on the secondary right now because they're struggling, and they are. But teams know that the Chiefs can't block. So, if you get into an obvious passing situation, you're toast. You're toast. And that's what happened in this game over and over again, because the Chiefs weren't ever in third and medium or second and medium because they were throwing so much. It was infuriating. And, I'm so mad at them because they should have lost this game. I always hate to use the term deserve, because, the Raiders, they didn't score enough points, despite the fact that the Chiefs are struggling, and the Raiders also deserve to lose. They literally screwed the pooch at the end of the game and couldn't snap the ball right. So both of these teams kind of deserve to get fired into the sun. But there was a part of me that was sort of I kind of hope they lose. I hope they lose this game. They should be. I heard reports that I saw Andy after the game last week against the Panthers. And he was like, hey, I don't want to see anybody hanging their heads. It's hard to win in the NFL, and blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, oh, good. I hope they were mad about how they performed against Carolina. And I can't remember who it was, but I heard a reporter who was in the locker room say at another time, I didn't see, the Chiefs seem happy that they won the game. I didn't see anybody really pouting. If they had lost this game, they would have all been catatonic in the locker room. And they should have been. And so I hope they're smart enough to know, and I know that they are, that they got bailed out by the Raiders, ineptitude in this game, and that they have serious problems they need to fix.
On the locker room atmosphere after, I think the two games comparing the Panthers and the Raiders was separate. It felt like the Panthers game, Carolina played above itself. The Panthers looked better than they had all season. And the Chiefs came out on top. And you're like, hey, look, Bryce Young actually played well. You know, the Chiefs outlasted him, whereas this did not feel like that. This felt like the Chiefs sunk more than their opposition rose to their level. So I think that Andy was right. You know, a win in the NFL is a win and anything can happen. I think that this one would be much more of a rude awakening than what we saw last week, because there were a lot more misfires on both sides of the ball, talking about things that didn't go well in the red zone, 1 from 5. What was it early in the game when there was the 4th down stop? The Chiefs had a chance to go up by 2 touchdowns. They kick a field goal. They get a punt the next possession. And again, another chance to go up 2 touchdowns. And again, it's a field goal. It felt like the game should have been buried at that point. So, and then what? The Raiders scored 2 touchdowns on 5 plays, and all of a sudden the Chiefs are behind, and you're like, oh, crap, here we go. So I just think their inability to put the foot down, which is something we've seen, and Mahomes said that last week against the Panthers, that they weren't able to execute at the end when they had those 2 late punts. Well, we saw that here in the form of 1 red zone inefficiency and then punts later in the game.
Yeah. All right, listen, this is the Arrowhead Addict podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. If you're mad at the Chiefs, hit the like button. If you're jacked up that the Chiefs beat the Raiders, hit the like button. It's a huge help to the show. If you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed. We've got a billion shows a week covering the Chiefs from every single angle, everything from emergency podcasts, all of that. I want to stop the show for one moment because we're here. It's Black Friday. It's the day after Thanksgiving. It's November 29th. The Chiefs are, what are they, 11-1 now. That's all good news. But the most important thing for you guys listening right now is that today is producer Richard's birthday. Happy birthday, producer Richard. We love you, man. You are the heartbeat of the show. I can't tell you guys how much Richard does behind the scenes, helping us get scheduled, helping get guests on. He got Bransen on today. I had my head up my ass. I wasn't looking at my Slack all day long. Had no clue Bransen offered to be on the show. Richard always comes through for you guys. He helps manage the community and the Discord. He's just also like a really funny and incredible person. And we're really lucky to have him on the team. Does all the stuff behind the scenes. So if you haven't liked the video for anything else, give it a like for producer Richard's birthday. There's no show without him. We love him. Happy birthday, Richard, working on his birthday. I didn't know that producer Hunter told me today that it was his birthday. I think producer Hunter should have done the show today, but that's how dedicated Richard is to the show. So happy birthday. Let's get to a couple more, or there's at least one more super chat. Justin Hayes donated a couple bucks and says, timing pass, please. No more improv. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the offense in this game a little bit more. It's weird, right? Because, you know, you look at the box score and you're like, hey, man, that's one of the best games. Mahomes went for 306 yards, 6.7 average, not great, only 1 touchdown, but he didn't turn the ball over. And you look at if you told me before the game, Mahomes isn't going to have any interceptions, he's going to throw for 306 yards. DeAndre Hopkins is going to have 4 for 90. Kelsey's going to have 7 for 68. Noah Gray, 4 for 58. And Worthy, 5 for 54. I'd have been like, oh, we killed him. We killed him. But what did it come down to? And it was these guys. One, of course, the blocking, which was killing drives. But the red zone. 1 for 5 in the red zone for the Chiefs. And then 7 penalties for 40 yards. Now, the Raiders far outdid them on the penalty front, but still, this was a game that was sloppy by Kansas City, where they moved the football, but they didn't finish in the red zone. What do you make of that, Bransen? Is it the tackles that like just torpedo these drives?
I think there's multiple answers. The tackle play was awful. It was bad. You know, Jawan Taylor, last year he was a penalty machine. This year, or this season, I think he's sort of moved away from it a little bit. It reared its head again today, though, like a couple of times where he wasn't lined up. And I think in the second half, the Chiefs just found themselves behind the sticks. You know, it would be 1st and 15 or 2nd and 20. And then there was the play where Mahomes scrambled and then he dropped the ball. And then that pushes him back as well. So I think left tackle was clearly a problem. I know you spoke about Joe Tooney a while ago. Is he the best option? He was break glass in case of emergency. And today it was absolutely an emergency. We saw a few times as well, Mahomes visibly frustrated, whether that was with a penalty, a pre-snap penalty for a false start or an illegal formation, or whether it was on a sack. Like there was one late in the fourth quarter, I can't remember which drive, where Wanya Morris just got blown by. Mahomes got sacked, had no time at all. And, you know, he's walking off the field and he's pumping the ball and he looks frustrated. And he got sacked 5 times, which I think tied a career high for him. It's hard to do anything when you have no timing. And then going back to the play calling, I don't think that helped the Chiefs out. That's why you run the ball, to try to relieve some of that pressure. So I think the tackles were a big problem.
Yeah, it was. Look, there were other issues. There were some drops and other, but like the combination of the fact that they can't block and that they were both creating penalties. I mean, Jawan Taylor, look, dude, learn how to line up. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, you are a professional football player. You get paid millions of dollars. Learn how to line up. If you're going to get beat, fine. Fine. Like, if you're going to get smoked off, if those 2 inches that you have to back up to where you're getting flagged all the time and killing these drives, if you're going to get beat because of those 2 inches, then so be it, man. But at least give Mahomes a chance. He's amazing. He's mobile. Maybe he'll Olay these guys a couple times and still score. But for the love of God, line up correctly. I mean, it's just laughable at this point. The NFL tried to make the poor guy an example last year and flagged him 15 million times, and it's still happening. It's, you know, this is, and look, this is on Brett Veach a little bit. And I love Brett Veach. He's a friend of the show. He's been on the show. And I'm sure he would tell you this too. Like, he whiffed, man. Like, if he had nailed the left tackle position with Wanya Morris or Kingsley Suamataia, or he signed a free agent and Jawan Taylor was doing this stuff, it's manageable. It's not great, right? But like, he's serviceable in pass protection. And the contract is too big for the way that he plays. But if you had nailed the rookie 2nd round or 3rd round left tackle, you can afford to pay Jawan Taylor too much money. But he didn't. He whiffed on Wanya Morris, who might be a fine emergency swing tackle at some point. But right now, he's getting exposed because he's playing too much, and teams are like, this guy's got serious weaknesses. Kingsley Suamataia, I don't know what they were seeing in camp. I think they were probably just hoping he'd develop. And he turned out to be worse right now than Wanya Morris. That's a huge whiff, because the only thing that can really stop Mahomes is blocking. We saw it in the only Super Bowl that he lost. And Brett Veach himself just tore down the offensive line after that Super Bowl and rebuilt it and did a great job. But he hasn't solved the tackle riddle. And it's great that they've got 3 All-Pros in the middle of this line. But boy, would you trade Trey Smith and Joe Tooney right now for 2 replacement level guards and 1 good left tackle? I think you would. So that's the issue here. I mean, there's a reason why tackles go so high and guards and centers go later in the draft. Do you think, are you excited about Humphreys? Do you think he can help solve this problem for these guys?
Oh, well, the Chiefs are hoping that he does. He kind of has to, right? Like, I know Tooney was break glass in case of emergency. So was going out and signing Humphreys, someone off the street who is coming back from injuries. The Chiefs need him to be the answer. You know, maybe coming into this week, you're like, oh, he might just be an option, where if it's Wanya's job initially and Humphreys is there if he can't hold it down. We saw today he cannot hold it down. So thank goodness the Chiefs signed him when they did, because they want to give him a little bit of time to work out and get acclimatized and everything. They reckon he'll be in for the Chargers game. Thank goodness. That's the message I think today. Was it had been a bit of a problem, and I think it's hard. I think it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy where teams know that left tackle is a weakness for the Chiefs, and so they are targeting it as much as they can, and that's making it worse. And then I think as well, when you have problems on the right side with Taylor having penalties, if you've got one problem, you can sort of manage that, whether it's guys chipping or double teaming or whatever it might be. When you've got problems at both ends, that really limits what you can do to help out. So I think Humphries, the Chiefs need him to be the answer. They don't need him to necessarily be a superstar. They don't need him to be a pro bowler. But what we saw today was not functional play from left tackle, and that's what they need.
Give me league average. I'm dying
exactly.
for league average. If he's league average, I think the Chiefs score a couple more touchdowns in the red zone in this game, and they're fine.
Does Wanya Morris or Kingsley, do they start at left tackle in any other NFL team? Maybe. Oh, okay, maybe that's a bit harsh. They'd find a home somewhere with some team, but you'd even settle for just a top 32 level left tackle at the moment, because that's not what they're getting.
Yeah, they're getting third string play right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love Wanya Morris. He's a really nice kid. He's been on the show. I've been rooting for him like crazy. Obviously, we want these guys to work out, but we've got to call it like we see it here. We're not trying to be unkind. It just is what it is. They get paid millions of dollars. They're big boys. They can take it. It's rough. Offensively, I think, look, 329 total yards in this game. The Chiefs did some things well, but the tackle, I just can't. I don't feel like we can really evaluate this offense until the tackle situation gets sorted out. Like, how can you? It's just they'll get something going, and then it's like a bullfighter out there. Wanya Morris was getting beat so fast, he barely touched the guy on a couple of different occasions. So it's not just the plays they get beat on that's impacting Mahomes. Mahomes has been a little bit off. He's been a little bit inaccurate. It's the pressure, man. Like, everybody's going to make a bad throw every now and again, but he's moving around. He's like a wizard out there. I mean, the touchdown pass he threw was unbelievable to Watson. Just incredible. He was getting hit. He looked it to the corner of the end zone. And if you go to my Twitter, I got a screenshot of right when he was releasing the ball. It's literally like when I play Madden, sometimes my quarterback will be getting hit and he'll still get the throw off. And I'll kind of be like, that would never happen in real life. Like, they can't do that. That's a glitch in the game. That's what it looked like. Like, that screenshot looks like the Madden glitch. So, he's still in there. It's just he can't get any consistency because of the pass rush, and he's doing everything he can. And they're 11-1. I have no idea how they're 11-1. It's Mahomes. It's Mahomes and Reed. But I don't think we can evaluate the offense until the tackle situation gets sorted out and get Humphries out there. I don't care if he's not in game shape. I don't care if he can only play 15 plays or something. Like, let's see what he's got. He's going to get into game shape by going out there and playing. Rotate him in if you have to. I know that's not an ideal situation, but hell, 15 plays. If they just put him in this game, if they put him in the red zone, I know he wasn't active. If he went in the red zone and was league average, they probably win the game by 3 touchdowns. So get him in, please God.
It can't be worse than what we saw today. And Wanya Morris had a very poor game. And we know that he is better than what we saw today. We've seen a couple of times this season where he has been caught out with particularly bad games, but we know that he can be all right. But today he wasn't, and that can derail a playoff game. That can be 3-peat over. That can be everything, because if the Raiders know that that's a weakness, every other team in the NFL knows that it's a weakness. And that the Bills, the Ravens, the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, all that, they saw exactly what we saw, and they took note. So the Chiefs need an answer there. And I think the offense, going back to that, when you said you look at the box score, it is pretty impressive. That catch from Justin Watson, man, he's so reliable. Like, when he's called upon, he always answers. He's not the most explosive guy, but the fact that he was able to come down with that ball, a tough catch, was pretty impressive. I was impressed with DeAndre Hopkins as well. We saw him in some one-on-one situations make some big plays too. There was what looked like they were trying to get a slant to him in the red zone, a play that worked earlier in the year. I think it was the corner made a good play, got inside leverage just before the snap. So I think there's definitely lots of elements on the offense that are good. And Noah Gray, again, fantastic. At the start of the year, that contract looked a little bit odd, but he's earned it. And again, Travis Kelce showed that when he's called upon in games, he can still answer. He might not have the same explosiveness, and some of his evasive maneuvers maybe weren't quite
a lot
as
slower now.
Yeah, exactly.
He can move. He does. He looks like he's in quicksand all of a sudden.
Yeah. And he's always had a way of doing that where he doesn't look like he's moving quickly, but guys just can't seem to get him. It's the same when Mahomes seems to scramble. He doesn't look like he's moving fast, but no one seemed to catch him. Kelce doesn't look elusive, but guys he makes people miss. Today, though, he sort of slid a couple of times. Maybe we'll say he didn't quite have the right pair of cleats on. He's got the runs on the board, but to still come down with 7 catches, 60-odd yards, it was good. And then even then, there was a couple of plays where he and Mahomes, one zigged when the other zagged. Normally, they're on the same page. There was a touchdown where Kelce turns one way, Mahomes throws the other. Either option was on, but they just went in different directions. So, as you said, if the offensive line can't block, there's nothing Mahomes can do. And we know if he's got time, he can do anything.
Yeah. Travis's knees not quite as springy as they used to be. Couple more super chats to get to. Wiley Possum donates $10. Says, ugly win today. Odd coaching in the second half. Should have ran the ball 30 times today. Poorly timed, bad penalties. Glad the D made situational stops to steal the win. Enjoy some pie. Take a breath. On to LA. Appreciate the positive outlook there from Wiley, one of our big supporters. And then Raymond Chandler donated $50. Says, happy birthday, Richard. Y'all buy him a shot with this. Appreciate it. And then our guy Slothy comes through and donates 10 memberships to the Arrowhead Addict membership program. If you want to become a member, snatch those up if they haven't all gone already. Appreciate Slothy. All right, let's we got to talk about the defense. Before we do, I do regrettably have to let you know that Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. With over 5 million happy players and 2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog. It's a really simple interface, you guys. It's a lot of fun. Higher, lower, which player, you could have done Kelce today. Thought he was going to have X amount of catches, higher, lower, simple. So just download the app. Use our code. It's a great way to support the show, Arrowhead Addict. That's all one word, to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, that's our code, Arrowhead Addict, all one word. If you haven't done it yet, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. You got to be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado. For some games, 21 and older in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in the state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. If you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York to 467-369. I got you, Sterling. I'm running you down, brother. We're going to have to start a timer on these reads now when we get to that part. Maybe producer Richard could set that up for us. And then Sterling and I can have a little competition for the rest of the season and see who takes longer to get through that section. I want to take down the radio guy. It'll be a big feather in my cap. All right, Branson, let's talk about the defense. This is a concern. So Charles Omenihu comes back today. I think he really helped things as far as the pass rush goes. But we're talking about Aiden O'Connell here. This is a guy who hasn't played football very much this year. It was coming off an injury. It's his first game back. He's on the road. He's at Arrowhead. He lost the battle to be the starter twice to Gardner Minshew, who's a serviceable quarterback, but I do think is better than Aiden O'Connell. And Aiden O'Connell finishes his game with a better stat line than Patrick Mahomes. 23 of 35, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Raiders outgained the Chiefs. They had 434 yards, total yards in this game, to KC's 329. They had 20 first downs. Chiefs had 18. They won the time of possession, 31 minutes, 12 seconds, 28 minutes, 48 seconds. And the only thing they lost was the turnover battle. 1 turnover at the worst possible time. What do you make of this Chiefs defense that, I mean, they were pretty good first half of the year, and then you lose Watson, and now Najee Johnson's getting benched, and guys are just challenging this Chiefs defense in the secondary?
I think I'm not as pessimistic on the defense after today's performance as I think most people might feel. Like, at the end of the day, they gave up 17 points. I think the reason why this game was so close was more on the offense and, that red zone inefficiency than it was on the defense getting stops. That does not mean that the defense was perfect. It does not mean that it wasn't frustrating. I think Brock Bowers is very, very good. He was he's the top tight end in the draft. He's leading all tight ends in yards and receptions. I'm pretty sure he is a unique target. As Chiefs fans, we've seen, how hard teams find it to guard Travis Kelce. We sort of got a bit of a taste of our own medicine there, where it kind of seemed like no matter what they did in terms of who they lined up on him, that he was able to get open and able to make plays. Now, I would have liked to have seen maybe some more double teams or something like that. It seemed like Justin Reed was doing a pretty good job in the first half, lining up on him and getting some contact early and kind of disrupting there. But, we saw McDuffie get cooked on one play, and we know that McDuffie is excellent. So then when we saw other guys like Cook and Williams on him and Reed in sort of one-on-one situations, Bowers is just going to make you pay. And he did, So I think the Chiefs secondary obviously still has issues, but I think Bowers is very, very good. I think the main thing that we should be looking at from a positive point of view is that pass rush. We saw the Chiefs able to get more pressure when rushing 4, something it felt like they haven't been able to do for weeks. Chris Jones got his first sack since week 4. He had 2 sacks. We saw George Karlaftis get one. Amenahu, I thought, was strong as well on those sacks that Jones got. He was right there as well. He was creating pressure. So I think from a pass rush point of view, I thought that was very good. I thought Nick Bolton looked good as well at linebacker. He made some good plays, a couple of good deflections, open field tackles. Other guys whiffed on some open field tackles, but I don't think the defense was that bad. We know that the secondary is a problem. CB2 is a problem, but we still held an opponent to 17 points. That's enough to win a game of football. It was today, and it should be in any other situation. The scary thing is, as you said, Aidan O'Connell is the quarterback for the Raiders. That better teams will be able to exploit that weakness more than what we saw. The Raiders have Myers and Bowers as their 2 receiving threats. Teams like the Ravens, the Bills, who we're going to see come playoff time, have way more options, way more weapons that they can use on. So I think I was happy with what I saw from the defensive line. That looked a lot better. I think Nick Bolton looked good. I think the secondary we know is a concern.
Yeah, look, it was big plays, right? So if you look at the box score,
exactly.
Yeah, big plays that they hit. And that's, big plays, explosive plays. You don't want to be giving those up. But if you look at in the passing game, right, Bowers, he had a couple of big plays. He's unbelievable. I think I'm not going to go so far as to call him the best tight end in football just yet. He's a rookie. I think George Kittle is the best tight end in football this year. He's been unbelievable, and we all know what he can do as a blocker. But Bowers he's going to take that crown from Kelce and Kittle, and he's going to have it for a long time to come. 10 for 140, but he had a long of 33. Jacoby Myers had 97 yards receiving, had a long of 43. Trey Tucker had 1 catch for 58 yards because Justin Reed fell down and he blew by him. DJ Turner's only catch went for 25 yards. So until late in the game, by the way, I was looking at I was in a text thread with some other Chiefs fans, and until sometime maybe in like the late third, early fourth quarter, the only guys that had catches for the Raiders were Bowers, Myers, Tucker, and DJ Turner. That was it. Abdullah didn't have a catch yet. Mayer didn't have a catch. McCormick, Terrace Marshall Jr. was targeted. He didn't get a catch. So, like, it was just a few guys, and they were just making some big plays on this Chiefs secondary. I'm concerned. I think I heard on the broadcast, did they say that Najee Johnson got benched and they put Joshua Williams out there?
Yeah.
So you're seeing breaking point stuff now, right? Where like the Chiefs try to stick with their guys. They try to scheme around it. Wanye Morris, they got to the point where Andy was like, bench him, put Tooney at left tackle. This is ridiculous. And Spagnuolo was like, Najee Johnson's just not it. He's hurting us. Like they're telling you with their actions who's hurting the Chiefs. The other people who are hurting the Chiefs that I haven't heard enough talk about this. The safety play for Kansas City is bad. It's bad. Justin Reed does some things really well. I like him. He's a thumper. He's kind of like that, Dirty Dan. We comes downhill, lays the wood, great support in the run game. But when he gets stuck in, he's vulnerable in coverage. He just is. And he got absolutely smoked by Trey Tucker. And then they cut to him. And I don't know what was going on, but he was smiling. And I was just, as a fan, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, bro, not only did you just get cooked, but you fell flat on your face. Like you didn't even have a chance to recover. What are you smiling about? Bad look. I don't know. Maybe he was grimacing, because he was like, God damn, that sucked. I don't know. But the Cook had a horrible attempt at a tackle that the Raiders got a big play on. They're struggling in the secondary right now. And I hate to say it, but losing what they had in L'Jarius Sneed, this is one of those examples where having one player can make a massive difference. It's a domino effect. Last year you had Sneed, and then you had Jalen Watson, and then you've got the safeties. Great. You lose Sneed. We need somebody to step up. Watson steps up. Watson gets hurt. Now you're like, shit. Like, these guys, we didn't count on these people starting. You're getting farther down the depth chart. I think they're getting exposed a little bit. And I said this after last week's game. I said, the book is out on this defense now. Teams know what the weaknesses are. There's enough tape. And this is not the start. It's this is not the end. This is just the beginning of teams attacking the secondary. They went back and they looked at the film of Bo Nix tearing, and he's playing well, but Bo Nix tore up this defense. Now, you got Bryce Young tearing up the defense. Josh Allen's tearing up the secondary. Take your shots against this defense because it's hard to run on them. And now what you even saw in this game, Branson, is that not only were the Chiefs bad in coverage again, but the running game started to open up. The Raiders have found something in this guy, Sincere McCormick, who was 12 carries for 64 yards. It's just all kind of coming apart.
Well, this is a Raiders team that was like almost historically bad at running the ball. And then it just seemed like they were able to do it at will. Like, I think exposed is probably the great word that you use there when it comes to the secondary, because I think that hits the nail on the head. I think some of these guys are being asked to play bigger roles, or they're in a position where, okay, we need you to be this, not the second best guy on defense. That's not quite what I mean. But like in terms of, all right, you need to step up into a level that we've seen they're not necessarily able to do. When we had Snead and McDuffie, there was more room for error. There was more margin for error. That's gone now because you've got one option. There's a whole other side of the field in theory that is wide open. And these guys have been asked to make plays. And so far they haven't been able to do that. So I think one thing that could change that, though, is, again, if we can get pressure off the defensive line. Like we saw in the Super Bowl, what was it? When Brock Purdy had that play at the end and Chris Jones just blows through and ruins that play from the get-go. If the Chiefs' defensive line can impact, and they've been creating a lot of pressure this year, but have more of an impact, then maybe that takes some of the pressure off those guys, less time that they have to spend in coverage. So maybe that's a potential answer or a potential remedy or something that might factor in that helps them out a little bit down the road, hopefully.
Yeah, and look, here's the thing about these struggles that the Chiefs are having right now. A lot of them might be fixable. Sometimes you're in a situation where you're not, it's not fixable, and then you just kind of have to ride it out and see what happens. The Chiefs have enough talent. Like, they brought in DJ Humphries. That is huge. I mean, if he can change the offense, because there aren't really reinforcements coming for the defense now that Omenahu's back, but there are reinforcements coming for the. I'm hearing some crazy things in my. Are you hearing that, Branson? Okay, so I just
it sounds like a ghost. That was a bit weird.
Sounds like a legit ghost. I was trying to just plow through and be a pro. Well, we're haunted here at the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Maybe Richard's playing a prank on us. I'm glad you heard it, because if you didn't hear it, it literally sounded like I don't know, man, somebody talking in like a faraway dimension to me. I couldn't hear what they were saying. Maybe it's left tackle help coming. I don't know.
I was checking my Wi-Fi. I was checking to make sure that everything was plugged in. I was like, oh, did I bum something? Has something come out? Have I lost my connection here? Am I frozen? But yeah, and I think to build on what you were saying, this is not the final form of this Chiefs team. Like, we talked about how we wanted to see him hand the ball off more. Pacheco, this is his first game back. So hopefully we'll see his number of carries increase. We'll see DJ Humphries come in. There's the potential for Hollywood Brown to return as well. Hopkins looks like he is everything we hoped he could be and more. So I think from that point of view, that's a positive. And then on the defensive side of things, there's not a whole lot of reinforcements, but Omenahu is a big piece of that defense. We saw that last year in the stretch as well. He was able to make plays. So if he can help out Chris Jones, if he can help out George Karlaftis, if Omenahu back means that Uche can make it. I almost knocked my whole setup over there. That time that would have been on me. Yeah. If we can, if he can be something that helps the defensive line, then yeah. But I don't think that this is the final form of this Chiefs team, especially on offense.
Yeah, you're right. And look, Omenahu being back, I think it really opened things up for Chris Jones. He gets two sacks in this game. He hadn't had one in a while. It was a nice recovery for him. And then it just the Chiefs haven't been getting pressure outside of Chris Jones. So getting Omenahu back is going to be huge. It's going to take him a while to get his snaps up. It's going to take him a while to get back into game shape. But what you saw was Omenahu has the ability to kick inside. And that second sack that Chris Jones got came from the edge. And so when you can mix and match those guys, it really gives you a lot of flexibility. If you're Steve Spagnuolo rushing 4, Omenahu's only going to get better as the season goes on. That's fantastic for the Chiefs. So that's the help that they have coming on defense. And then on offense, as you pointed out, Hollywood Brown is going to be back. Humphries is going to come in. Those two additions are massive for the Chiefs, especially with the emergence of Noah Gray right now. DeAndre Hopkins continuing to get comfortable. Xavier Worthy is not. He is playing better and better. By the way, Xavier Worthy in this game again, 5 for 54. It's not happening all at once, but he's coming along. He's catching balls that aren't just deep shots. It's not just manufactured sweeps and stuff that they were doing for him earlier in the season. He's starting to get on the same page with Mahomes a little bit, making some plays, moving the chains. That's huge. If he follows a somewhat similar trajectory to Rashee Rice last year, this is an offense that is going to look a lot different come January and February with the additions of Hollywood Brown, potentially a new left tackle. So nothing is guaranteed, but the future is bright there. And the defense going through these struggles now, it's good, because if they kind of faked it until they made it all the way into the playoffs, and then these deficiencies started opening up, they don't have enough time to scheme around them. Now, like Najee Johnson getting benched, it'd be great if he was the answer, but it's a good thing because it's forcing the Chiefs coaching staff to be like, we got to try somebody else. We need to figure this out. We have to find a solution. Maybe they don't find a solution, but you'd rather them start looking now while they're 11-1. And you know what I mean? They've got time to figure out changing their scheme a little bit. And if there's any coaching staff or any defensive coordinator in the entire world that you would rather have on your side right now, it's Steve Spagnuolo. So I'm deeply concerned, but I'm not in a panic because of Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, I think the problems are definitely there. And while reinforcements may not be coming, I think the brains trust is in place. And we've seen that in Spags we trust. That's what was on the T-shirt. It worked last year. It worked the year before that. It's worked every year that he's in Kansas City. Give him a bit of time to work. Obviously benching a starter mid-game is not ideal. You're not doing that for fun, so that obviously shows that there is serious concerns. But I think you're right. We've got more time to try to workshop this, try to figure out what combinations work, and if there's a way that we can remedy it. So we'd rather have it now than, in the playoffs. I totally agree.
Yeah, and just one more thing I'll say about the offense. We talked about how the tackle play is messing up timing and continuity and all this. Like DeAndre Hopkins, actually great average. He was at a 22-yard average in this game, 4 for 90. He was targeted 9 times, caught 4 balls. Kelsey was targeted 13, caught 7. So, it's just a little bit off. And they're going to figure that out if they can get enough time to do it. But that's what you're seeing is like Mahomes and Kelsey not being on the same page. That's almost certainly a direct result of like Mahomes has got to let the ball a little bit earlier than he needs to. So he's anticipating a little bit more than he usually does. And Kelsey and he are just not on the same page. Shout out to Wiley Foss for the super chat. Says game balls to Bolton, D-line, and the backup kicker. I guess we're here now. It's time to give out some hardware, Bransen, and do earning their arrowheads. I kind of don't want to give hardware to anybody, but people did play well in this game. So who stood out for you in this one? Are there any players that you think earned their arrowheads today?
Well, one that I want to touch on is Matthew Wright, because he was phenomenal. The Chiefs without Butker, they turned to him a couple of years ago. They've come back to him again. He was 4 from 5 today. The one he missed was a 59-yarder. Funnily enough, he did hit a 59-yarder against the Raiders a couple of years ago, but this time it fell short. But that's always a tough ask. But I think if I was a Raiders fan, it would be easy to say, that pre-snap penalty, or if that was a pre-snap penalty, we would have won the game. That's not what cost him the game. What cost him the game is the fact that Carson went 1 for 4, that he missed a couple of other field goals that they weren't able to execute. I know we said at the start that I think in this instance the Chiefs did get lucky, and I still think that's true compared to what we've seen in previous games. But if you do a side-by-side comparison, they were able to execute more often in the kicking game, and that is literally what won them the game. So I think Matthew Wright absolutely has to get an arrowhead. Chris Jones, 2 sacks, made a big impact today. I thought Nick Bolton was good. Sometimes he cops a bit of flack. I thought today he stood up on the offensive side of the ball. I think Noah Gray, he's just being exactly what the offense needs. If Kelsey's going to not be as prominent, they need someone else to step up, and he has as well. So those are, what's that? Was that 4? I think 4 who stood out for me.
Yeah. Nice. Agreed on all of those. Look, I'm going to give one here to Drew Tranquil, actually. He's been struggling badly in pass defense this year, and that's kind of usually been his calling card. I had 2 passes defended in this one. I thought he played a lot better, and they need him to with this defense of the way that it's struggling. So shout out to him. Shout out to George Karlaftis for bagging another sack. He's been kind of held in check a little bit the last couple weeks. Chiefs need him to get going. I'm going to give one to Omenahue because we need you, man. And I think his presence definitely made a difference in this one, even though he didn't stuff the stat sheet. Let's see who else here. I mean, I'll give one to Matt Araiza. He had to punt 5 times in this game for 217 yards. He had a 54-yard punt. He pinned him inside the 20 twice. That matters.
Another thing on Araiza, we saw him lay the stick a couple of times. He had a couple of big hits where he was hustling down the field and making a few big plays, popping a couple of Raiders players on punt returns there. So that's always nice to see. He's not afraid of a bit of physical contact. So that stood out. I did see that.
I gotta say, man, I don't want to it was awesome. Look up Matt Araiza, lay in the wood. I don't want him getting hurt. The way the injuries are going for the Chiefs this year, hey man, just wait back there. But he's fearless, man. He is another guy on that. He is running down there other guys are this guy's gonna run out of bounds, and Araiza comes flying out of the screen and is laying the wood.
On Chiefs injuries, I reckon that he would be, with the way this year's gone, he'd be more likely to get injured walking his dog than he would be laying a hit. It'd be something totally random on an off day where he's just doing something mundane, and then, I don't know, maybe he's cooking and drops a saucepan on his kicking big toe, and then he's out for the rest of the season. It just seems that something weird would happen, but yeah.
I'm going to give one to Isaiah Pacheco. Welcome back, Pop. Dude broke his leg this season, got a steel plate in it, and he's back, and he had a 34-yard run. So glad to see him back. I'm going to give one to Patrick Mahomes. He didn't turn the ball over. He was getting the shit kicked out of him back there. So 26 of 46, 306 yards. They don't win without him. They just, I don't know. If Aiden O'Connell was putting up with what Patrick Mahomes was putting up with today, he might not have completed the pass. And that's not a knock on Aiden O'Connell. That's a feather in the cap of Patrick Mahomes and how good he is. Yeah. It's just he's incredible. He really helped them out in this one. And I'm going to give one to Xavier Worthy and Noah Gray. Xavier Worthy, 5 for 54. He's doing exactly what we needed him to do. 7 targets, 5 catches. One of those he couldn't, Mahomes overthrew him. And Noah Gray just is on a tear. I know he didn't score any touchdowns this week, but if he can keep doing 4 for 58, that's going to be enough, especially if the Chiefs get some help back on offense. No other defensive arrowheads for me to give out in this one. Just not good. They got to get better. I will say, man, when I think about this team, I'm glad they're going through, like I said earlier, I'm glad they're going through the struggles now. This is frustrating, but they've got, look, here's the deal. They're 11-1. That's great. They're still in the catbird seat for the number 1 seed. If you watch Sports Talk TV this week, you're going to be super annoyed because it's going to be a lot of, how do the Chiefs keep getting away with this? They should have lost to the Raiders. They should have lost to the Panthers. This is a bad football team. Remember, just 2 weeks ago, or I guess it's 3 weeks ago now, they played the Buffalo Bills in a competitive game, and they were down 2 points in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, against the mighty Buffalo Bills on the road. So this is not because they've had a couple bad performances here against bad teams. And I say it every week. This is the regular season is one long preseason for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're figuring out what they do well. They're figuring out what they struggle with. They're tweaking. They're learning. Everybody else is going balls to the wall, trying to win as many games as they can. And so are the Chiefs, but they do it more meticulously. They play the Chargers next week at Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football. If they play anywhere close to the way that they played the last 2 weeks, they're going to get the shit kicked out of them. The Chargers are really good. They play excellent defense. And despite a lack of weapons on offense, Harbaugh has that offense humming. Herbert's back. He's playing really well. He's playing confidently. He is going to torch this defense if the Chiefs don't figure something out. So the Chiefs offensively, if Humphreys is indeed going to play next week, that can't come soon enough because they could be a shootout in this one. Chargers game next week. Big game for the Kansas City Chiefs. In fact, if they don't get it together, they have the Chargers. They go on the road to play Cleveland, who has a plucky defense, and Jameis will just throw the ball. I mean, you're worried, you're getting challenged downfield. Jameis doesn't care if he throws interceptions, just throw it down there. So you have to worry about them. Then they got the Texans, the Steelers, and the Broncos. like the Chiefs playing like they are playing like they played today could lose all of those games. So I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm saying the time to get your shit together is now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like what we saw against the Panthers, again, I said earlier that I think you could say Carolina played above what we expected. I think today the Chiefs played poorly. You know, there were some passages that were good. There were some positives that we spoke about, but overall they did not play well enough to beat a fellow playoff contender. And that's who they're going to face over the next few weeks, as you said. And it could be bad if they play to that same level. Yeah, don't know. Yeah. Not optimistic. I mean, the Chiefs are good. They can win every single game they play, but today did not fill me with confidence.
Yeah. Well, listen, the good news is it's a Friday right now. They played on a short week against a division rival the day after a holiday. They've got a long week now to get ready for a Sunday night football game against another division rival who they beat earlier this season. So lots of time to prepare. And we'll see what they come out with on Sunday Night Football. Listen, everybody, we appreciate your support so much. Shout out to all of our Arrowhead Addict podcast members. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict podcast, check out the link in the description. It's a great way to support the show and get involved. Thank you to producer Richard. Happy birthday again to him. We're going to let him get out of here so he could go celebrate and enjoy his birthday. And thank you to Bransen, who made it so I could actually drink my beer this post-game show because I wasn't talking the whole time. It's weird. I felt bad last week. I'd be like, guys, I want to take a drink of my beer. Just give me a minute. It was great. It's great. You and I haven't caught up in a while. It was great having you back on.
No, more than happy to do it. And I think the thing to remember as well is the Chiefs are 11-1 and they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. They're going back to the playoffs. I don't know if they've technically clinched a playoff spot.
They did.
They did. Yeah, I remember looking at a few of the calculations, and I think they needed Miami to lose and then to win. And so they're in. They're going to have a shot at a three-peat, which is incredible. And, you know, all these problems that we've sort of spoken about today in a bubble might seem like a big deal. And, you know, it could be the difference between the Chiefs winning a Super Bowl or not, or winning a playoff game and not. But let's not forget that they are 11-1. They've got the best record in the NFL. We know that they can do it. So, yeah, it might be easy to be a little bit downbeat at the moment, but I've got confidence that they'll work it out. They've got all the pieces that they need on the field and, you know, in the coaching staff as well to be there. Can I just say one other thing? So obviously I'm located down here in Australia. So it's 8:40 a.m. on Saturday morning here. So I'm so glad that the Chiefs won, because over there, you know, it's nighttime, they lose, and, you know, an hour or two, and then you go to bed, and then you wake up and you sort of forget about it. If they lost, I would have had all day, you know, literally 12, 14 hours to think about, man, why didn't they run a play on 4th and 2? Why did they punt there? That sort of thing. So that's the one downside of being a Chiefs fan or being an NFL fan over here, is if the result doesn't go your way, you've got an awful long time to think about it and go about your day. But yeah.
What time did you have to get up to watch that game? Like 5 a.m.?
4 a.m. kickoff. So a little bit early, but thankfully it's on a Saturday. The hard one is obviously Sunday games are on a Monday here.
Yeah.
So the noon central kickoff, or the 1 Eastern kickoff here, where I am in Western Australia, that starts at 2 a.m. on a Monday morning. So the good thing with the Chiefs is, because they've been so good, they play in the late window. They either play the 4 o'clock game, America's game or whatever, or they're playing in prime time, which is a more reasonable wake up time of 5 in the morning or maybe 9 a.m. So, you know, you're watching at work, but yeah, so I'm glad today that I woke up at 4 a.m. on a Saturday, watched that for 3 hours, and that they won. Because if they'd lost, that's when you go, man, I'm so glad that I'm going to be tired for the rest of my Saturday after watching the Chiefs turn that on. So, but that's okay.
I can't imagine how cross you'd be if you got up and they played that game and gave you no entertainment and then lost. Oh, for goodness sake. Shout out to Zap the man who's watching from Finland and
Yeah.
is listening to this podcast at 2:41 a.m.
Yeah.
Look, I'm impressed by anybody that's willing to get up at 4 a.m. or 2 a.m. to watch the Chiefs play football, but I understand it. I am incredibly grateful to anybody that's going to look at this face, be like, you know what I need to do? I need to stay up until 3 a.m. to watch Patrick Allen talk about the Chiefs. God bless you, Zap, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody in Finland.
And I think for him, it would be, or for Zap, sorry, it would be the opposite, where if the Chiefs play primetime games, that's potentially even later in the night. So Zap's probably not enjoying the Chiefs' success, makes it hard to watch. But as a fellow international fan, I can sympathize with that. So cheers for hanging out.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We are going to get out of here. Let producer Richard enjoy his birthday. Thank you again to all of our members. Thank you to the Raiders Center for being a dope and helping us move. I can't believe this team's 11-1. It's absolutely crazy. Thank you to Bransen Gibson and, of course, producer Richard for making the whole thing go. And, of course, Adam Best. And I don't think Matt Connor was on today. Price Carter, everybody who was involved in the show today. We appreciate you. We will be back with our regular slate of shows starting next week. For everybody in the U.S., happy Thanksgiving. We're all thankful for you. Enjoy your nice long weekend here. We'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.